and it says our dev server is up at localhost 3000. So let's go ahead and take a look at what Claude Code came up with for us. All right, so you can see here right in the upper left-hand corner, we have P1 Auto Logistics, we have our logo, we have a button to get a quote, stress-free auto transport done right. At P1 Auto Logistics, we believe in honesty, professionalism, and full transparency. We connect you with trusted carriers and walk you through every step, no surprises, no hidden fees. And then you can see right here, front and center, just like I asked it, I wanted it to funnel the users to the free quote. So if I click request a free quote, it takes us right down to this form here. Hey everyone, Cody here with 529 Suite. Today I'm going to be talking about using Claude Code to build a landing page for my auto transport brokerage company, P1 Auto Logistics. Now, just because I'm making this for a brokerage company doesn't mean this doesn't apply to anything else that might justify having a landing page. If you're not familiar with the concept of a landing page, it's kind of just a place to funnel your customers or your clients to get them using your service or your products. And so in my case, for an auto transport brokerage company, someone wants to move their vehicle from point A to point B, and I get them set up with a transport carrier or a motor carrier company to take that vehicle from point A to point B. So what do they need from me? Well, and what do I need from them actually, which is really I need to know where they're coming from, where they're going, what their vehicle is, and really that's it. So essentially I need them to fill out a contact form to give me some information so that I can provide them with a quote. And that's really all I want on my landing page. And then maybe just a little bit of information about my company, how it kind of works at a high level. And that's it. So with that being said, we're going to jump right into it. As you know, I'm using Firebase for my web hosting, so I already have a hosting project set up in Firebase. If you're not familiar with Firebase, go back and watch my playlist for Firebase setup, and you'll get familiar with that there. So I already have a domain set up, p1autologistics.com. If I go to that website right now, you'll see there's nothing actually deployed to Firebase, and so it's just saying site not found. That's what we're going to be working on. Secondly, I have an email set up, and so obviously for my use case on my landing page, when someone contacts me, I need to receive that email, and then I also want to set up an auto reply so that they kind of understand that I've received their request for a quote, and we can go from there. So what am I using to do the email portion of this? I'm using something called email.js. This is just something that I'm familiar with. I've used it in past projects, so it's what I'm comfortable with. I know it works well, and for up to 200 requests a month, it's a free service, which is great, especially for small scale businesses. So if you don't know anything about this, but you kind of just generally know, like, okay, I want to be able to receive an email from someone and then auto respond back to them, you can always ask Claude Code, what are some free email services out there that I can use to plug into my website? That's actually exactly what I did back when I didn't know anything about this, and it led me to email.js. And like I said, it's been great. So that's what I'm using. So what you'll need to do is go to email.js.com if you have a need to set up a service like this. Once you create your account, you can come in and add a new service. If you're using a custom domain for your email account, you want to set up an SMTP server. So you go add new service, SMTP server. But this also does hook into well-known email services like Gmail, Outlook, Yahoo, iCloud, and all of those other famous ones. So I'm going to use SMTP server. You come in here, you put your host, your port, your domain provider should provide this information for you. I'm using Namecheap in this case. So if I go look at my existing service, you'll see that the host for that is mail.privateemail.com. Here is my port for secure socket layer. I'm indicating that my SMTP server through Namecheap does support secure socket layer. And then I, of course, have my actual email account and the password for that email. So that's really all you need to do to get set up, and then that's going to provide you with a service ID, which you'll need later for hooking up to the actual email service API. So after we have that set up in email.js, you can also set up email templates. So this is actually what gets used to construct the email that will come from a user to my email account, and then I also set it up for my auto response back to the user. So anytime someone goes to my website and fills out a request form, that form is going to get mapped into this email template and get sent to my actual email account. So I just have a subject here that it's a request for a quote, and then there's a variable here that keeps track of the name of the person. So this would equate to a kind of a text box entry in my website that has the person's name. And then I have all of the details of the transport that they're trying to do so that I can go off and get the quote from a motor carrier. So I have the vehicle make, vehicle model, vehicle year, pickup location, zip address, zip code, drop off zip code, whether or not the vehicle runs or not, because this could impact the price, and then whether it's an open top or convertible vehicle, maybe where the actual top doesn't close, which would obviously require it to be in a closed transport vehicle, or maybe potentially be covered up somehow. And then of course I want to capture their phone as well. So the to email, anytime that this kind of template gets used, it's going to send an email to my contact@p1autologistics.com. It's going to have the from name. The from email is going to be the default email address, and then my reply to is going to be the from email, which is where this email is actually coming from. And then I also have it set up to link to an auto reply template so that anytime this gets triggered, it will also trigger an auto reply. So the auto reply template basically is just what's going to get sent back to the user. So I'm going to say hi from whatever their name is. And then, just thanks for reaching out to us. We've received your request and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. And then I'm just kind of reiterating the information that they provided to me through my landing page, and best regards from the owners at the company. And again, the to email here is going to be to the from email variable, which is their email. From name is my company name. The from email is my company email. And then I'm replying to contact at, that actually should be from email. And we will go ahead and save that. And what I can also do, if I go back to my templates, go to contact us, test it out, what I can do is basically populate all of these parameters here, these variables, to the template. I can send a test email, which will confirm that it's working. So I've actually already done this. So I filled it out with all of my information. You can see here I got an email to my email account. That's a request for quote with my name, Cody. It has all of the details, my car, my make, my pickup location, my drop-off location, and my alternative contact information. And then you can see, because I put my email in here as the from email, I got a response back as if it was coming from P1 Auto Logistics. It says, hi, Cody. Thank you for reaching out to us. We've received your request for a quote, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. And here's all of that information. So that's pretty cool. We have the email service already set up. It's pretty straightforward. And now what we want to do is actually set up our landing page to hook into this email.js service, and of course provide the actual landing page itself. So I have Claude Code opened up in a new VS Code project, and I've already pre-populated a prompt here. So I'm going to kind of go through the prompt here to highlight how I'm telling Claude Code I want to make this. So I'm going to say, I'd like to create a welcoming professional landing page for my auto transport broker company, P1 Auto Logistics. I want this to be a Next.js static single page application that uses Firebase hosting. So right here, right off the bat, I'm telling it this is the tech stack that I want to use. This again is just a tech stack that I'm familiar with. If you don't know what tech stack makes sense for you, go ask Claude Code what your tech stack could be. That's what's great about it. And the first time I ever did this, I didn't really know what my tech stack should be. But now that I've done this a couple times, I'm familiar with this tech stack. I'm comfortable with it. I know it works well. And so I'm just telling it right off the bat, this is what I want to do. I'm letting it know I already have a Firebase hosting project set up. So I want it to ask me for any relevant project information about that so that it can deploy this web application to my hosting project on Firebase. I already have some branding stuff figured out, so I'm telling it the color theme for my company is a gradient with the primary. I'm giving it a hex color code here and the secondary hex color code here, and it also uses a white font. And I'm also letting it know I already have a logo image, and I'm kind of getting at this so that it will create a placeholder for where my logo image goes so that it can just tell me where to put the image, which will then get rendered on the web page. I'm also saying the landing page should funnel customers to a form containing necessary information for a quote. I plan to use an email.js service to handle processing the quote information and sending an automatic reply from my company email account. I already have an email.js service set up with email templates. So again, I'm kind of informing it more information about my tech stack. But if you didn't know this ahead of time, you could always have this conversation with Claude Code to help it guide you towards a solution for your needs. So I might ask it something like, well, I want someone to be able to come onto my landing page, fill out some information that then gets submitted to my email account. And I want that then to trigger an auto response back to the customer confirming that I got their information. And Claude Code, I guarantee you, is going to be able to tell you a couple of different services that you can use to do that, email.js probably being one of those. So with that, I'm also just giving it some more information about the templates that I have set up, because it's going to need to know and understand what these different parameters are, so that when it makes the API call to the service from the web application, it knows how to map all of the information that the user submits to the API request. So I'm just saying here is the email template for the contact me page with all of the parameters, and then I'm also saying that it sends an auto reply with this template information as well. Finally, down here at the bottom, I am saying I would also like the landing page to contain a high-level flow diagram of the process for a typical auto transport broker. I don't have experience as an auto transport broker, so I'm actually kind of starting to get at leveraging Claude Code here to kind of help guide me towards a solution that is a good solution, also kind of based on what other people have done in the past. So for example, step 1, request a quote. Step 2, P1 Auto Logistics provides the quote within 24 hours. Step 3, the customer confirms the transport. Step 4, the transport is booked. And so I'm also, again, kind of saying, I'm not experienced in this area, so feel free to provide feedback on these high-level steps. Ideally, it should make the process look as simple and transparent as possible to the customer. And then I'm kind of letting it know just like what some of the core company values are so that it can kind of incorporate that into the web page. So I'm saying our company values honesty, professionalism, and transparency. And then finally, I'm telling it what I actually want it to do. So I want it to put together a plan and ask me about anything that it's unsure of. And if it's making any sort of assumptions, clarify them with me so that it doesn't just go off and do it. And I want to point out here that I'm actually running in plan mode. That's because I don't want Claude Code to actually go off and do anything without telling me what its plan is. I also upped the effort to high just because I feel like I get a little bit better results with that. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this prompt, and Claude Code's going to go off and kind of think about what it should be doing here. All right, so you can see Claude Code is already familiar with email.js. Remember, I told you it's going to need some information about the project. So it's asking me, it needs the service ID, the contact us template ID, the auto reply template ID, and my public key. So I'm going to provide them in the next message. And then it also wants to know where is my logo image file right now. And I'll just indicate that I'm going to drop it in the repo and tell it the file name. It's asking which CSS approach do I prefer for styling. CSS is cascade styling sheets. This is kind of how you stylize your website with certain color palettes and fonts and formats and whatnot. So I'm going to just use the recommended Tailwind CSS. I really don't have a strong preference there because, one, I don't know much about CSS. I'm going to rely on Claude Code to do a lot of the CSS for me. That's why I'm going to use the recommended suggestion there. It's also asking, does this proposed 4-step process flow look right to you, or would I like changes? Step 1, request a quote. Step 2, receive your quote within 24 hours, confirm and book, and then vehicle picked up and delivered. I think that looks great from a high-level perspective. I don't want it to get too into the weeds because then it might just look too complicated to the end user. So I'm going to say look good and submit answer. And it's asking me what my Firebase project ID is, which is great because that is, I told it that I had a pre-existing Firebase project. So I'll tell them, I'll type it below. And then also, please provide your email.js credentials so I can wire them up correctly. So I am going to paste them in the next message and submit answers. All right, so now I'm going to provide all of the information that it requested. So I'm going to just start doing this here, Firebase project ID. I will go back to my Firebase project here, and I will go to P1 Auto Logistics, project overview, and I'm trying to remember where the actual project ID is. Here it is. Put that there. And then it needs my email.js service ID. So I'm going to go and grab that from email.js. Just grab that there. It also needs the contact template ID, so I'm going to grab that as well. So I'll go back to email.js, go to my email templates, contact us, and go to the settings and grab that there. Email.js contact ID. It also needs the email.js auto reply ID. So I'll go grab that as well. And finally, it needs the public key. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my settings here, grab the public key. And now it's going to go ahead and use all of that information to deploy my Firebase project and hook into the email.js service. All right, so Claude has come up with a plan. Let's kind of go ahead and take a look here. So Context wants to build an Next.js static single-page application for P1 Auto Logistics and Auto Transport Broker. The site funnels visitors to a quote request form, sends the quote details to the company via email.js, and fires an auto reply to the customer. It's all hosted on Firebase. Here's an overview of the tech stack. You can see the one thing that it did for me was added Tailwind CSS for styling. I didn't clarify this up front. You can see that it did kind of catch on to the fact that I want this to be a static export. So it's going to configure Next.js for output export. It has all of my credential and configuration information here, and it even gives me a great overview of kind of what the resulting project structure is going to look like. One thing I see here is it has a couple of components in here like Hero TSX. That seems a little bit odd. That seems like it might be pulling from some pre-existing example. Components here are just kind of reusable units of code. So this is just kind of how it's organizing the code. It has my color theme in here from the RBG colors that I gave it, the hex colors. And there's some information about the page sections from top to bottom. So we'll have a header, which will have my logo, a single nav link for get a quote, smooth scrolls to quote, gradient background with white text. The hero, kind of the main section of the web page here, stress-free auto transport done right, sub headline emphasizing honesty, transparency, and professionalism, large CTA button, full viewport height, gradient, that all looks good, process flow. Here's kind of those 4 key steps to how we operate, and then the actual quote form. It's telling me what it's going to do when the on submit button gets clicked. You can see it's hooking into the email.js service here, which is all really great. And then it has a footer with kind of company name, tagline, copyright line. Here's what the Firebase hosting config is going to look like, and the scripts for firing up the application. It's telling me where I'm going to place the logo file. And here's some assumptions that it made that it wants me to confirm, which is great. The auto reply template is configured in email.js with a reply to field mapped to the customer's email. Otherwise, the auto reply won't reach the customer. I'll pass reply to email in the params object to support this. And that is, let's see. So actually reply to, I don't think I used that. I believe I used from email. So let me go clarify that real quick. Yeah, reply to is from email. So I am going to tell it to update that. So we'll take note of that. No additional pages are needed. No analytics or cookie consent needed at launch. And so that's all good. So I am going to click yes, I do accept this plan, but I want to manually approve the edits. Oh, that's actually not what I wanted to do. Okay, so I accidentally said accept the plan, but we'll just let it go off and do its thing. I said I'm going to have it kind of ask me for approval before it makes edits. I don't really want to do that. What I wanted to do was actually edit the plan a little bit. So I clicked the wrong button there, but that's okay. We'll let it kind of do its thing. And actually right here on its first request for approval, I'm actually going to say let's actually just allow all edits this session. We'll let it go through and do its thing, and then I'll go back and tell it to make those minor tweaks that I had noticed. The one being really updating that parameter name from reply to from email. That way it can get the proper value for the email that it needs to auto reply to. All right, and it looks like it has made it through everything. Here's the whole to-do list that it went through, and it's trying to now install dependencies and verify the dev build. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes, I allow that to happen. All right, so you can see it's kind of going through now and trying to build the application to make sure that there's not any errors with it. It has caught a couple and it's kind of iterating on that and rebuilding the project. And every time it's asking me to allow it to run build, you can see that the build has passed, and we should just about be ready to launch this on our local host and take a look at what it has come up with, which is super cool. And again, I also just want to point out too, if you're not familiar with Firebase, or you're not familiar with a tech stack, or you're not familiar with web hosting, I have playlists on 5to9suite.com where you can actually go and learn about each of these topics. The only thing I don't have a playlist on yet to date is the email.js setup, but I feel like I went through that a little bit in this project, and it is pretty straightforward, so feel free to go and watch any other videos on setting up email.js. All right, it looks like it's finished. It says next steps, drop my logo as public logo.png. The header will display it automatically, and then it says I can run npm dev to preview it locally at localhost 3000. Test the form end-to-end, submit a real request, confirm both emails arrive, and then run npm run deploy to publish to Firebase when ready. It also says here, note on email.js auto reply. In your email.js dashboard, make sure the auto reply template has its to email field set to reply to. So actually what I'm going to do here is, this was kind of the thing I talked about earlier. Update the auto reply template to use from email. That is how I currently have it configured. So we'll do that. And I'm also going to go grab my logo and drop it in the public logo PNG. So I'm going to go to my downloads where I have my logo saved. Grab that. And we'll go back to here. And what I'm going to do is create a public folder. And I'm going to drop it in here. And it said to just name it logo, so we'll do that. All right, and now we should be good to go. It made the change to use that from email variable, and it said to then run npm run dev, which is going to bring up our application on localhost, so we can actually take a look at what it does. And I just realized I accidentally typed npm run dev in Claude Code as opposed to in my terminal, but Claude Code is smart enough to figure out what I meant to do, and so it's going to go ahead and run that command for me. All right, and it says our dev server is up at localhost 3000, so let's go ahead and take a look at what Claude Code came up with for us. All right, so you can see here right in the upper left hand corner we have P1 Auto Logistics, we have our logo, we have a button to get a quote, stress-free auto transport done right. At P1 Auto Logistics we believe in honesty, professionalism, and full transparency. We connect you with trusted carriers and walk you through every step, no surprises, no hidden fees. And then you can see right here front and center, just like I asked it, I wanted it to funnel the users to the free quote. So if I click request a free quote, it takes us right down to this form here, which is awesome. You can see all of the information we're looking for, full name, email address, an optional phone number, the details about the vehicle. It has years all the way back to, it looks like it went all the way back to 1987. So that's not great. I think I want that to go all the way back to, like, I don't know, even some unrealistic number like 1900, but just to make sure we have everything accounted for there. There's a make, model. Does the vehicle run? Yes, it runs. No, it does not. Convertible or open top. And then the transport details. So I'm not super thrilled with the year drop down here, so we're going to ask it to update that. I guess just kind of from a stylistic standpoint too, I wish this logo was kind of pushed all the way over here to the kind of left. It's kind of awkwardly centered here. Get a quote, I think, could be kind of moved over to the right. How it works: transporting your vehicle is simple with P1 Auto Logistics, 4 straightforward steps. So here's a nice little flow diagram with some icons on how everything here is going to work. I like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and just ask it to make a couple of updates for us. So let's see. Stop the dev server, because we'll rerun that from the terminal here in a moment. Update the logo and the company name to be in the upper left corner of the web page. Move the get quote button to the upper right corner. Finally, update the year drop down to go back to 1900. Actually, yeah, let's just go 1900. It's obviously a little bit over the top, but we just want to make sure that we account for a full range of years. And I think that's really all we want it to do. All right, it looks like the changes are done. I'm going to open up my terminal now, rather than have Cloud do the npm run dev, and we'll take a look at what those updates did. All right, you can see the logo was moved to the upper left, get a quote to the right. We still have request a free quote. It looks like the year was updated to go all the way back to 1900, which is great. So let's go ahead and actually test out the form now. So I'm gonna just do a basic kind of form here. We'll do 5 to 9 SWE. My email address, I will do 5 to 9 SWE at gmail.com. We'll put in a fake phone number. And for the year, we're just going to do a 2013. We'll go, let's do a Ferrari 488. Does the vehicle run? Yes. Is it convertible? Open top? No. And we will do, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 6, 7, 8, 9, 9. And let's request my free quote to make sure that this actually works. You can see quote request received. Thank you for reaching out. We'll review your details and get back to you within 24 hours. Check your inbox for a confirmation email. So first off, what I want to make sure is that, did I get this at my company email account? You can see here, I do have a new email. Quote requested from 5 to 9 SWE. Here's the details. Ferrari 488. It runs. It's not a convertible. Here's my alternative contact. So that looks great. Now let's go ahead and go to my Gmail. And specifically, we'll go to 5to9swe.com, which was the email that I put in there. And you can see here, I did get a response back from the company. Hi, 5to9swe. Thanks for reaching out. So that all looks great. Interestingly, you can kind of see that there's two responses here. So it looks like it's kind of doubling up on the response, which is interesting. If I go back to my email.js account, let's see how many requests I have left. 195. So yeah, because that is not divisible by 2, 200 minus 195 is 5. That's not divisible by 2. So there was an extra response in there, which is interesting. So if I go to my templates, my contact us is linking to auto reply. So it should automatically do that. What I'm wondering is if Claude Code is actually explicitly making a request to this template ID. And so it's doing the auto reply that's already hooked up through email.js. And then it's actually sending another API request to do the reply. So I'm going to indicate that there's kind of an issue going on here with Claude Code, and let's see if we can get to the root of the issue and get that addressed. I tested out the quote form and observed 2 responses from P1 Auto Logistics. I am thinking that, actually, you know what, I'm not even going to tell it what I'm thinking is the issue. Let's see how good Claude Code is at kind of going and investigating this on its own to figure out what the problem is. it should only be getting one response. Why am I getting two? So let's see if Claude Code can kind of go do some investigation. You can see it's shimmying and sussing and tell us what's going on here. You can see the email.js contact template almost certainly has an auto reply configured directly in the email.js dashboard. So the auto reply fires once automatically when the template is sent, and then our code fires it a second time explicitly with a separate API call. The fix is to remove the second send call. Email.js handles the auto reply on its own. So exactly like I suspected, Claude is able to figure that out right away. This is what's great about Claude Code. You actually don't necessarily need to know all of the nitty-gritty details about what's going on. Claude Code is pretty fantastic at figuring things out for you. So it looks like the template was updated, or sorry, the API call was removed and the duplicate response should be gone. So let's go ahead and run another test just to confirm that that is the behavior that we're seeing. Oh, and it looks like okay, so there's a duplicate process running, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll rerun npm run dev. And let's go take a look again and request a free quote. So we'll try this again, 5 to 9 SWE. You can also see that it has all my saved information, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and actually pre-populate with that. We'll go 2013 again, the vehicle runs. Let's try and not answering one of the required fields here just to make sure that it actually tells us we need that. Yep, so you can see because I didn't enter this required field, it says we need to select an item in the list. So the form submission was not successful. So we're going to go ahead and do that there. And let's see, everything else looks good. So request my free quote, quote request received. Let's make sure I get the email again. Yep, you can see that we got the email. This time I did check open top convertible as yes. So we do know this is truly the request that we just submitted. And if I go back to my 5 to 9 SWE inbox, let's see if we only got one response this time. And you can see at 11:28 a.m., 0 minutes ago, we did get the correct response. We didn't get two. Gmail is just kind of putting this in the same thread. So that's great. Everything looks like it is all set up. And we now have a landing page with a contact form for our auto transport brokerage. The one last thing that we want to check is getting this deployed to Firebase. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to VS Code. I'm going to kill it here, and then I'm going to say everything looks good. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, there was one other thing I noticed that just came to mind. See this little logo up here? So Next.js is from Versal, and this is kind of the default Versal icon in my browser tab. So I'm going to tell it to update the browser tab logo to use my company logo instead of the default logo. So it's going to go ahead and update that for me, and then once this is successful, we'll go ahead and ask it to deploy to Firebase so that when we go to our actual p1autologistics.com, rather than seeing Firebase here, site not found, we'll actually see our website. So it looks like it did that for us. Let's just check real quick to make sure that we actually see that reflected. And you can see, yep, there's our logo. So everything looks good there. So we'll close out of these browsers. And now we're going to ask Cloud to deploy to Firebase. Yep, you can run the command. All right, it looks like it deployed successfully. The site is live at this link, which is the default Firebase link, which just kind of indicates that Cloud doesn't know that we have a custom domain set up. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page here, and just like that, you can see that everything is looking good. So we are officially deployed on Firebase with our auto transport brokerage kind of landing page here. And yeah, one other thing I want to point out is the lack of security in our current setup. And that is mostly because we are using both the free plan of email.js as well as the free plan of Firebase. And by upgrading either one of those, we would be able to make this fully secure. But let me just go ahead and demonstrate the security gap that we currently have in our landing page here. So what I'm going to do in my browser is press the F12 key, which is going to bring up something called the developer tools. What this allows me to do is inspect all of the source code for the application that I have running here in the browser. Email.js is considered a client-side email service application. And so what that means is that the calls that we make to the API are intended to happen directly from the client running in the browser. Because of that, we have a little bit of exposure to anyone that knows a little bit about browsers. And so, for example, if I do a search in the developer tools, Control-Shift-F, and then look for service underscore, you can actually see the code that is being used to make the API calls to the email.js service. And you can see in that code, we are passing it our email.js service ID, our email.js template ID, and our public key. What that means is that anyone with that information can make the same API calls from their application, and they can leverage your email.js service account. Now, because we're on a free version of email.js, there's really not a whole lot of side effects to this, because we're going to hit our 200 request limit in a month, and it's going to just cap us out. We're not going to be spending a bunch of money or anything like that. However, what we could do as an alternative is upgrade our email.js subscription, which would allow us access to this whitelist for domains here. And what we would be able to do is come in, take our domain, and add it here and save changes. And what that would make sure is that the only domain that can make requests to our email.js service come from the domains that we have on this whitelist, which in our case is p1autologistics.com. And so that would prohibit any other domain or any other person from making requests to our particular service. The subscription for email.js that enables this is the personal subscription, which is $9 a month currently if you bill it annually, or $11 a month if you bill it monthly. And you can see that whitelist feature right here. You also get additional email templates, and you can get up to 2,000 monthly email requests. So that is one way to mitigate this solution. Another way to mitigate this solution is through something called firebase functions, which would allow us to store these credentials on a firebase server such that our application code or our client code only makes an API call to our firebase function, and then that firebase function, which resides on a server somewhere, is actually what makes the call to the email.js service. And that firebase function hosted on a server has access to our service IDs, our template IDs, and our public key through variables that are stored securely on the server. So that is another way that we could circumvent this issue. And I will have a second video on my Firebase playlist that will show how to set up Firebase functions so that you could go that route as well. That route is most likely a bit cheaper than upgrading your email.js subscription, because Firebase functions are they are just charged based on the usage of the server running the function. So basically, only when someone actually submits a request for a quote are you using resources from that server and therefore being charged. Outside of that, there's no additional charge. So it would end up being a relatively cheap, inexpensive way to go about this. However, if you're just playing around with something, or you're just using the free version of email.js, this probably isn't a huge issue for you. I just wanted to make sure that this is something that you're aware of, so that you don't have any surprises if someone has some sort of malicious intent against your company. So anyways, with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Happy building.